I thought I knew everything about my wife of 18 years, until the message arrived. Leaving town with my new man. Best of luck with the mortgage. But when she attempted to access our bank account, she discovered that I'd been several steps ahead all along. What she didn't know was about to shatter her entire world. My name is Benjamin Crawford, 43 years old, owner of Crawford Packaging Solutions here in Ohio. We specialize in custom packaging for mid-sized businesses. It's not glamorous work, but it pays the bills, and then some. I built this company from the ground up, putting in 16-hour days while Victoria stayed home raising our kids, Oliver and Amelia. At least, that's what I believed she was doing. The first serious red flag appeared 3 months ago during Oliver's soccer tournament. Victoria had promised she'd be there, but when I looked to the stands, her seat was empty. When I called, she claimed she was stuck at her design firm with a client emergency. Funny thing was, when I drove past her office later, the parking lot was completely empty. Then came the new clothes. Victoria had always been fashionable, but lately she was buying high-end dresses and lingerie I never saw her wear at home. When I asked about it, she laughed and said she deserved to feel good about herself after all those years of just being a mom. Then the phone calls started getting strange. She'd step outside to answer them, saying they were work-related. But Victoria is an interior designer. Since when do designers have urgent calls at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night? Last month, while searching her purse for car keys, I found a receipt. Dinner for two at Romano's, the fancy Italian place downtown. The date was a Wednesday, the same night she'd told me she was working late. 2 entrees, 2 glasses of wine, 1 dessert to share. When I asked, she went pale before composing herself. That was with my client, Mrs. Henderson, she said, avoiding my eyes. We were discussing her kitchen renovation. I knew Mrs. Henderson. She's 75 and diabetic. She doesn't eat dinner at 9 p.m. or drink wine. That night, I started watching closer. Victoria's phone was always face down now. She'd shower the moment she got home from work. She even switched gyms, driving across town instead of the one 5 minutes from our house. But the real wake-up call came 2 weeks ago. I came home early from a supplier meeting and heard her on the phone in our bedroom. The door was closed, but I could hear her voice through the wall, soft, intimate, a tone I hadn't heard in years. I know it's complicated, she said, the way she used to talk to me when we were dating. But I can't keep pretending everything's fine at home. I stood there in my own hallway, feeling like a stranger, listening to my wife of 18 years talk about our marriage with someone else. The betrayal hit like a punch to the gut, but what followed hurt even more. He suspects something, she continued. Ben's been asking more questions. We need to be more careful. The way she said my name, like I was a problem to manage instead of a husband, that's when I knew it was over. Not because of what she'd done, but because of how easily she could plan the end of our life together with someone else. I slipped out quietly, sat in my truck for 20 minutes, and made a decision. If Victoria wanted to play games, I'd make sure I understood the rules. The message came while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my office. My phone buzzed. I expected a client update or maybe Oliver asking for a ride home. Instead, it was Victoria's name and a text that froze me in place. Ben, I'm leaving. Moving away with Derek. Good luck handling the mortgage and the kids on your own. Don't contact me. I read it 3 times before the words truly sank in. 18 years of marriage, 2 kids, a life built together. And she ended it with a text. Not even a call. Just 23 words that destroyed everything. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. I expected rage, panic, something dramatic. Instead, a strange calm came over me, like I'd been unconsciously waiting for this moment. All those months of doubt finally made sense. I typed back, thanks for the heads up. It wasn't sarcasm. It was genuine. She'd given me clarity. No more second-guessing, no more pretending. What Victoria didn't realize was that I'd been preparing for this for weeks. Call it paranoia or business instinct. But when you run a company, you learn to protect what's yours. 3 weeks earlier, I had quietly transferred our joint savings into an account under my name alone. I'd restructured business finances to shield them from any divorce claims. I'd even met with a lawyer, just in case. As for the mortgage she mentioned, it was in my name only. During a refinancing 2 years ago, she'd signed the paperwork without noticing the fine print that removed her from the deed. Then my phone buzzed again. A notification from her banking app. Victoria trying to access our joint account. The transaction failed. She tried again. Failed again. I could almost picture her face when she realized what I'd done. The confusion, then the anger, then the panic. For the first time in months, I actually smiled. 20 minutes later, my phone rang, Victoria's number. I let it go to voicemail. She called again right after. I declined and went back to my reports. A few seconds later, a voicemail notification appeared. I hit play. Ben, what the hell did you do to our accounts? Her voice was sharp, panicked. I can't access anything. This is illegal. You can't just cut me off from our money. Call me back right now. I deleted the message and blocked her number. At 5 o'clock, I drove to Oliver's school to pick him up from soccer practice. He climbed into the truck, sweaty and covered in grass stains, chatting excitedly about the upcoming tournament. I listened, said the right things, and didn't mention that his mother had just abandoned us through a text message. That conversation could wait until I knew exactly how to handle it. For now, my focus was on protecting my kids and making sure Victoria's selfishness didn't wreck their lives more than it already had. Oliver noticed something was off the moment we got home. At 16, he had his mother's sharp eyes and my stubbornness. He grabbed a water bottle from the fridge and studied my face. "Where's Mom?" he asked. "Her car's not in the garage." I'd been dreading that moment all afternoon. Amelia was upstairs doing homework, and I needed to handle this carefully. Oliver was old enough to understand, but young enough that it would still shake him. "Sit down, son," I said, gesturing to the table. "We need to talk." His expression shifted from curious to uneasy. He sat across from me, and for a second, I saw Victoria's features in him. The same high cheekbones, the same tilt of his head when he was focused. "Your mother has decided to leave," I said simply. "She's not coming back." The silence stretched between us. Oliver blinked hard, processing. "What do you mean, leave? Like, for how long?" "Permanently," I said. "She's with someone else now. I'm sorry you have to hear this." I watched as emotions crossed his face, confusion, pain, anger. When he finally spoke, his voice was colder than I'd ever heard it. "How long have you known?" he asked. "I suspected for a while," I admitted. "But the confirmation came today." Oliver nodded slowly. "That explains why she's been acting weird lately. Always on her phone, barely listening when we talked." He paused. "Does Amelia know?" "Not yet," I said. "I wanted to tell you first and get your help figuring out how to handle this." That seemed to straighten his posture. Being treated like a partner rather than just a kid gave him a sense of control. "She's going to be crushed," he said quietly. "Mom's her hero." "I know," I said. "That's why we have to be careful." He leaned forward. "Dad, are we going to be okay? Like financially?" The question caught me off guard with its maturity. "Yes," I said. "We'll be fine. The house is secure, the business is stable, your college fund is untouched. Nothing changes for you and Amelia, except that it's just us now." Relief flickered across his face. "Good," he said. "Because honestly, if Mom could just walk away like that, maybe we're better off without her." The bitterness in his voice broke my heart. No 16-year-old should have to grow up this quickly. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. Victoria had found a way around the block. "Ben, this is ridiculous. I need access to money for basic necessities. Call me so we can work this out." I showed Oliver the message. He read it and snorted. "Basic necessities," he repeated. "Like running away with some other guy?" I deleted the message without replying. She'd made her choice. Now she could live with it. The next morning brought an unexpected twist. I was in my office at Crawford Packaging when Janet, my secretary, knocked with a worried look. "Ben, there's a man here to see you. Says it's personal. Name's Nathan Pierce." Nathan Pierce, Victoria's first husband. I'd heard that name exactly twice in 18 years. Once during our engagement when she mentioned she'd been married before, and once during an argument when she told me I was nothing like Nathan, as if that were an insult. "Send him in," I said, my curiosity piqued. Nathan stepped into my office, and I immediately understood what had drawn Victoria to him. Tall, well-dressed, mid-40s, graying at the temples, radiating quiet confidence, the kind that comes with success. "Mr. Crawford," he said, extending a hand. "Nathan Pierce. I believe we have something in common." I shook his hand. "Victoria, among other things, yes." Nathan sat down uninvited, but somehow made it seem completely natural. "I heard through mutual acquaintances," he said, "that Victoria has moved on again." "Word travels fast," I replied. Nathan gave a grim smile. Victoria has a pattern, Nathan said. I thought you should know what you're dealing with. I leaned back in my chair. I'm listening. When Victoria left me 15 years ago, he began. She emptied our joint accounts and vanished overnight. Left me with a mortgage I couldn't afford and debts I didn't even know existed. She'd been having an affair with a real estate developer. Thought he was going to set her up for life. What happened? I asked. The developer was married and had zero intention of leaving his wife. Victoria found that out the hard way. By the time she realized it, I'd already rebuilt my life. When she tried to come crawling back, I was done. Nathan reached into his jacket and pulled out a manila folder. These are copies of her financial records from our divorce, credit card fraud, identity theft, forged loan applications. She's done this before, and she'll do it again. I accepted the folder but didn't open it. Why are you telling me this? Because Victoria's pattern is always the same, he said. She burns everything down, then comes back when her new life collapses. Give it a month, she'll show up with some tearful story about how she made a mistake. Then she'll wave legal papers claiming she's entitled to half of everything you've built. Nathan stood, straightening his jacket. Don't let her. Victoria's not evil, but she's selfish in a way that destroys everything around her. Your kids deserve better. When he left, I finally opened the folder. The documents inside told a story of deceit and manipulation that made my stomach twist: financial fraud, emotional blackmail, deliberate sabotage. She hadn't just left Nathan. She'd wrecked his credit, stolen from their joint business, and tried to claim alimony despite being the one who walked away. I called my lawyer immediately. 3 days after Victoria's departure, Amelia started complaining of stomach aches. At first, I assumed it was stress. Kids often show emotional pain physically. But when she collapsed during soccer practice, I knew it was something serious. In the emergency room, the doctor's expression told me everything before he even spoke. Mr. Crawford, Dr. Stevens said, your daughter has type 1 diabetes. Her blood sugar levels are dangerously high. The world tilted. Diabetes? How? She's always been healthy. Type 1 can develop suddenly, the doctor explained, especially during stressful periods. The good news is it's manageable with proper care and treatment. As he went over insulin schedules, diet changes, and daily monitoring, all I could think about was Victoria, our 12-year-old daughter facing a lifelong condition, while her mother was probably playing house with Derek somewhere. Oliver rushed to the hospital as soon as I called. One look at Amelia, pale, weak, fur in her arm, and his jaw tightened. Where's Mom? Amelia asked faintly. Oliver and I exchanged a look. We'd agreed to tell her about Victoria gradually, but this changed everything. Mom's not available right now, I said gently. But we're here, and you're going to be okay. The next few hours were a crash course in diabetes care. Oliver took notes. I asked every question I could think of. We were both determined to learn everything. When the insurance coordinator mentioned the cost, insulin, testing supplies, regular doctor visits, I silently thanked Nathan for warning me about protecting our finances. That night, after settling Amelia in at home with her new medication routine, I called Victoria's blocked number using Oliver's phone. She answered on the first ring. Oliver, is everything okay? She asked, cautious. This is Ben, I said. Amelia was in the hospital. She has diabetes. Silence. Then what? Is she okay? Which hospital? She's home now. Type 1 diabetes. She'll need daily injections and constant monitoring. I'm coming home, Victoria said quickly. No, you're not, I replied. You made your choice. Amelia asks about you, but she's better off with people who won't walk out when things get hard. Ben, she's my daughter. I have rights. Rights you gave up when you left, I said. Don't make this harder. I hung up and blocked her number from Oliver's phone too. Later that night, while researching diabetes care online, Oliver came into my office. Dad, he said quietly, I've been thinking. Maybe we should tell Amelia the truth about Mom. She's going to find out sooner or later. You're right, I said. But let's get her health stable first. One crisis at a time. Oliver nodded. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Mom left when we needed her most. That tells us everything about who she really is. His maturity humbled me. Victoria's next attack came through social media. Janet, my secretary, walked into my office the next morning, holding her phone. Ben, you need to see this, she said. My daughter showed me. It's all over Facebook. Victoria had posted a long emotional message claiming she'd been forced out of her home by a controlling husband who'd taken her children and frozen her finances. She painted herself as the victim of financial abuse, saying I'd cut her off from her money and used the kids against her. The post had already gathered dozens of sympathetic comments from people who only knew her side of the story. I was being called a monster, a bully, a deadbeat father. Someone had even shared my business page with negative comments. She's trying to ruin your reputation, Janet observed. She was right. Crawford Packaging relied heavily on relationships with local clients and suppliers. If Victoria's lies spread, it could seriously damage our business. I took screenshots of the post and every comment, then called my lawyer. This is defamation, my attorney, Sarah Walsh, said after reviewing the evidence. We can file for an injunction to remove it and potentially sue for damages. Do it, I replied, but I want to respond first. That evening, I drafted a Facebook post, factual, concise, and directed at anyone asking about the recent online drama. My wife left our marriage for another man, abandoning our 2 children during a medical crisis. Our 12-year-old daughter was recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Instead of supporting her child, my wife chose to spread false information online. I am focused on my children's well-being and will not engage in public disputes over private matters. I posted it alongside screenshots of Amelia's hospital bracelet and Victoria's original text about leaving. The reaction was immediate. Friends who knew the truth began commenting in support of me and the kids, and others questioned Victoria's story. Within hours, she deleted her original post. At midnight, my phone rang, an unknown number. Ben, take down that post, Victoria said bluntly. You're embarrassing me. I just provided context. Derek's family is seeing this. It affects our relationship. Good, I said. Maybe Derek should know what kind of person he's involved with. You don't understand. I need this to work out. I can't come back now. Her desperation almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost. Victoria, you made your choice. Live with it, and stay off social media if you can't handle the truth. I hung up and went to check on Amelia, sleeping peacefully with her glucose monitor nearby. This mattered, not Victoria's theatrics or Derek's family's opinions. My daughter needed stability, and I would ensure she had it. The next bombshell arrived on a Tuesday morning in the form of routine mail. I was reviewing Amelia's blood sugar logs when Oliver brought in a stack of letters from the mailbox. Most were bills and advertisements, but one envelope made my blood run cold. A notice from First National Bank about a second mortgage payment past due. I stared at it, reading 3 times before the reality sank in. 6 months ago, Victoria had taken out a second mortgage on our house for $75,000. The first payment had been made on time, but the second was now 30 days overdue. Dad, what's wrong? Oliver asked, noticing my expression. I handed him the notice. As he read, his face darkened. She mortgaged our house, he said. Is that even legal? I was already dialing my lawyer. Sarah Walsh answered on the second ring. Sarah, I need you to pull the title records on my house immediately, I said. Victoria had apparently taken out a second mortgage without my knowledge. That shouldn't have been possible unless she forged my signature. Both spouses must sign for a second mortgage, Sarah replied. An hour later, Sarah called back with news that made my stomach turn. Ben, Victoria did forge your signature. The paperwork is here. It's a decent forgery, but there are discrepancies in pen pressure and letter formation. More importantly, you were at a packaging convention in Detroit on the date it was supposedly signed. We have proof, registration, hotel receipts, even photos from the trade show. Victoria committed outright fraud. What's our next step? I asked. We file criminal charges for forgery and fraud, Sarah said. We also contact the bank immediately to contest the loan. Since it was obtained illegally, they'll have to pursue Victoria directly for repayment. That afternoon, I sat down with the kids to explain the situation. Amelia was checking her blood sugar, a routine becoming second nature to all of us. So, Mom stole money from our house, Oliver said. Amelia asked, her 12-year-old mind cutting straight to the point. Essentially, yes, I said. She took out a loan using our home as collateral without permission. Oliver's face darkened with anger. Dad, she's trying to ruin us. First, she abandons us. Then she attacks Dad's business. And now this. She's not just leaving. She's trying to make us suffer for her choices. He was right, and his anger was justified. But I needed to turn that energy into action. Oliver, I need you to help me document everything, I said. Every interaction, every lie, every attempt at manipulation. This isn't just about divorce anymore. It's about protecting ourselves from someone who's become destructive. That evening, after the kids were in bed, I called Nathan Pierce. She did the same thing to me, he said when I explained the forged mortgage. She took out a business loan using our house as collateral. I didn't find out until after she left. How did you handle it? I asked. Criminal charges. Victoria spent 3 months in county jail. That's the only thing that stopped her from trying to come back. Nathan's words hung in the air. I'd never imagined considering criminal charges against the mother of my children, but Victoria had crossed the line from abandonment to active sabotage. Do it, Ben, Nathan continued. Victoria only understands consequences when they're severe enough to get her attention. On a Friday evening, Victoria showed up at our front door just as we were finishing dinner. I saw her through the window, tired, thinner than when she left, wearing clothes I didn't recognize. She stood on the porch for a long moment before knocking, as if gathering courage. Amelia was the first to notice. Dad, someone's at the door, she called from the dining room. I looked through the peephole, jaw tightening. After 3 weeks of abandonment, fraud, and attacks on our family, Victoria had decided to appear. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. Hello, Ben, she said softly. I need to talk to you. To all of you. The children are eating dinner, I replied. You should have called first. You blocked my number. All of them. For good reason, I said. Victoria glanced toward the dining room where Oliver and Amelia pretended not to listen. Please, Ben, I know I've made mistakes, but I need to see my children. Before I could respond, Oliver stepped in. At 16, he was nearly as tall as I was, and his presence felt protective. What do you want, Mom? He asked coldly. Victoria's face softened. Oliver, honey, I've missed you so much. I know this is confusing, but I can explain everything. Explain what? How you abandoned us when Amelia got sick. How you tried to destroy Dad's business. How you stole money from our house. Her face went pale. You told them about the loan, she stammered. I told them about the fraud. I corrected the forgery. The criminal charges are being filed, I said. Victoria stepped back. Ben, that's going too far. We can work this out. We could have worked it out if you'd stayed and acted like an adult, Oliver said firmly. But you chose to run away and attack us from a distance. Amelia appeared beside him, her glucose monitor in hand, a constant reminder of the crisis Victoria had missed. Hi, Mom, she said quietly. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Amelia, sweetheart, how are you feeling? I heard about the diabetes. I'm so sorry I wasn't here. You weren't here because you chose not to be, Amelia replied simply. Dad and Oliver take care of me now. Victoria looked at me desperately. Ben, please let me come home. Derek and it's not working out. I made a huge mistake. Yes, you did, I said. Multiple mistakes. But coming home isn't an option anymore. I'm their mother, she said. Then you should have acted like it, Oliver said firmly. Mothers don't abandon their children. Mothers don't steal from their families. Mothers don't try to destroy their children's security because they're unhappy. Victoria was crying, but I felt no sympathy. She had made these choices deliberately and now faced the consequences. You have 5 minutes to say whatever you came to say, I told her. Then you need to leave. I want my children to know that I love them, Victoria said, looking at Oliver and Amelia. Everything I did was because I was confused and scared. I never meant to hurt you. But you did hurt us, Amelia said. And you're still trying to hurt Dad. That's not love. Victoria had no response to that truth from a 12-year-old. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, with worn wooden benches and harsh fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired. Victoria sat at the defendant's table with a public defender, having apparently spent all her money on Derek and poor financial choices. She looked nothing like the confident woman who had walked out on our family 2 months earlier. Judge Harrison, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who had clearly seen her share of messy divorces and financial crimes, reviewed the case file while we waited. Her expression grew more severe with each page. Miss Crawford, Judge Harrison said, looking directly at Victoria. You are charged with mortgage fraud, identity theft, and forgery. How do you plead? Victoria's voice was barely audible. Guilty, Your Honor. The plea bargain Sarah had negotiated was firm but fair. 5 years probation, restitution for all fraudulent charges, and a permanent restraining order keeping Victoria away from our home and my business. Most importantly, I was granted full custody of Oliver and Amelia, with no visitation rights for Victoria until she completed court-ordered counseling and financial responsibility classes. Mr. Crawford, Judge Harrison said, turning to me, "Do you find these terms acceptable?" "Yes, Your Honor. My main concern is protecting my children from further instability." After the hearing, Victoria approached me in the hallway. Her public defender had advised against it, but she seemed determined to speak. "Ben, I know I can't undo what I've done," Victoria said quietly. "But leaving Oliver and Amelia was the biggest mistake of my life." "Then why did you keep making it worse?" I asked. "The fraud, the attacks on my business, the social media lies. You had chances to make this right." Victoria looked down at her hands. "Derek convinced me that you were trying to ruin me financially. He said the only way to protect myself was to strike first." "And where is Derek now?" Her silence was answer enough. "He vanished the moment the criminal charges were filed, leaving her to face the consequences alone." "Victoria, I hope you get the help you need," I said finally. "But my children come first, always." That evening, I sat down with Oliver and Amelia to explain the court's decision. They had endured enough uncertainty and deserved to know their lives were finally stable. "So, Mom can't just show up anymore?" Amelia asked, adjusting her glucose monitor. "Not without going through the courts first," I confirmed. "And not until she proves she's changed." Oliver nodded. "Good. We've been doing fine without her. Better than fine, actually." He was right. Despite everything Victoria had done, our family had grown stronger. Oliver had stepped up as Amelia's protector and my partner in managing her diabetes. Amelia had shown remarkable resilience, adapting to her new normal. I had discovered I was capable of more than I ever imagined. "What happens now?" Amelia asked. "Now we keep building the life we want," I said. "College applications for Oliver, managing your health, growing the business, normal family stuff." Normal felt like a gift after months of chaos. 6 months after the court ruling, Crawford Packaging Solutions experienced its best quarter ever. Word had spread about how I handled Victoria's attacks with professionalism and integrity, and several clients increased their orders in support. Oliver was thriving as a senior, already accepted to 3 colleges with partial scholarships. His experience managing Amelia's medical needs had sparked an interest in nursing, and he was volunteering at the local children's hospital. Amelia had become a poster child for successful diabetes management, even starting a blog that gained followers among other young patients. The house felt lighter, more peaceful. Amelia's room was repainted in her favorite purple, and Oliver converted Victoria's old office into a study space for college prep. Every trace of the chaos Victoria brought into our lives had been replaced with something better. Nathan Pierce had become an unexpected friend and mentor. His insight into Victoria's patterns proved invaluable, and his business connections led to several new contracts for Crawford Packaging. Sometimes the best relationships come from the most unlikely circumstances. Victoria had completed her court-ordered counseling and requested supervised visitation with the children. Oliver declined, preferring to focus on his senior year. Amelia agreed to one meeting, which lasted exactly 20 minutes before she asked to leave. "Dad," Amelia said afterward, "she keeps apologizing and crying, but she doesn't understand what she did wrong. She thinks saying sorry fixes everything. What do you think?" "I think some things can't be fixed. But that's okay, because we fixed ourselves." My dating life remained non-existent, by choice. Oliver and Amelia needed stability, and I needed to focus on being the father they deserved. There would be time for romance later, when the kids were older and settled. I had learned something important about myself through this ordeal. I was stronger than I ever imagined. I could handle crises, protect my family, and rebuild from nothing. Any woman who wanted to be part of our life would need to understand that my children always came first. On a crisp October evening, as I helped Amelia with her insulin injection and Oliver studied for the SATs, I realized something profound. We weren't just surviving Victoria's abandonment. We were thriving because of it. Sometimes, the best thing someone can do for your family is leave it.